Hey guys, Graham here, and welcome to Traditional Flash. Sorry I haven't done one of these in a while, but I'm back on it now and should be making quite a few more. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be shading the rest of this sheet and then colouring it. This sheet is one that I started in my last video where I did a sort of close-up and a real-time shading tutorial where I showed you exactly how to use the brushes. So if you want to watch that, it's the video before this one and you can find it on my channel easy enough. Right, so let's get started. And what I'm doing at the moment is just a bit of black shading, continuing on from where I left off really. If you haven't watched my videos before, I'm using Copic markers, and what they are is they're sort of brush tip pens. You can get different types of these. I've had a few comments recently asking about different brands of pen, what different ones you can use. Prismacolors have quite a good reputation. I haven't actually used them myself, but a lot of people do, and I've heard really good things about them, so that's an alternative. And they do exactly the same sort of thing as Copics, whereas Copics have codes. So I'm using a 100, which is a black. I'm using a C7, C5 and a C1. Now that's a C7 is a 70% black, a C5 is a 50% black, and a C1 is a 10% black, whereas with Prismacolors you would get the actual percentages. So if you want to get Prismas instead of Copics, then you can do exactly the same thing. It's just get a 100% black, a 70% black, a 50% black and a 10% black, and you'll be doing exactly the same thing as what I'm doing here. And other brands I'm not really too sure on, so it's best to sort of ask other people or maybe look up other tutorials about those. But yeah, here's a close-up. Decided to do the rest of these kind of closer in so you can see what I was doing. And I'm actually doing these wrong. If you watched my last video, you'll know that I always say point the black towards the edge of the line which you're shading away from, which is what I'm doing there. But this bit I'm doing wrong. The shading, you should have the brush facing the other way. I'm doing it wrong because I don't want to keep flipping the paper around the whole time when I'm making the video. So I'm not sure whether you guys would prefer me to actually keep the page still when I'm shading in the videos like this, or to actually flip it around and do it properly so you can see how it's properly done. But it doesn't really matter too much. But if you have any preference, let me know and I'll do it in future tutorials. This is a pain in the butt though, to be honest, but it keeps the paper still, so it's fine. But yeah, this is kind of like classic, sort of more English looking woman, I guess. I make a couple of mistakes in this one. I can't remember where they are, but I basically had to refill my black. I paused it and refilled it. You probably wouldn't notice because I did it pretty slyly, but at some point I put too much ink down because I pressed the black on the page without dabbing it first, and there we go, yeah, on her chin too much black came out, so I just got a liner and went back over it. Now when you're shading with solid black, it's pretty easy just to get a liner and move the line a bit so it doesn't notice, and that's a good tip for you. I think I'll do it again in a sec as well. Yeah, there we go, it all blurs out. If you're watching this in HD and full screen, I'm sure you'll be able to see that really clearly. And yeah, just get the liner again and just go back over it. So there's a tip for you if you make any mistakes. And yeah, just going back over with the three different gradients and blending it out. So onto the Indian woman. Now this is a very typical sort of design that a lot of people would have got back in the 50s or whenever. I've had quite a few people actually getting a bit offended, being like, oh, why would you get a Indian tattooed on you? It's not part of your culture, you're ripping off someone else's culture just to look cool. But fact is, a lot of people would get these Indian designs done on them, and it's just tradition really. So I have absolutely no problem with people getting them done, and I think it's a bit stupid when people get annoyed about stuff like that. And I'm usually one to be funny about things like that, but that's just stupid. Just ignore people that say stuff like that. Oh, that reminds me actually, I had a couple of comments recently of people saying it was only like one or two people maybe just saying that painting, well, they're saying that it's not real painting if you're using Copics or markers. Well, you still got to have the skill to do the art well. They don't magically make you draw good. Like, I can't understand people that say things like that. I mean, yeah, it does make it a bit easier because you're not having to shade out with just water from ink, which is fairly hard to do when you first learn it. So it does make it easier to learn, but you've still got to know where to put the shade in. You've still got to execute it well, and you've still got to do the initial drawing well. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, anyway, this is a sort of cowgirl, I guess, kind of Texasy woman, and she's not very good looking, but that's fine. Not a lot of these traditional sort of pin-up women were that great, to be honest. So it's in keeping with the theme. That's the good thing. That's the thing I like about old school. You can just be loose and you can just kind of get on with it and not really have to worry too much and just have fun with it. And that's the thing with art. I think when you're doing something like this, you've got to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then it's just like, well, why am I even doing this? So I just kind of have fun with it. If she looks a bit ugly, I think that's quite cool. So I just crack on. But yeah, same thing. You can see the variation of the tips on the brushes. See, obviously black, and then they get lighter as I shade them out. So you can actually see the different colours of the tips and kind of get an idea of how to do it. But like I say, if you want a better idea of exactly the technique that I'm doing, you can watch my previous video where I started this sheet and I, like I say, real time talk you through exactly what I'm doing and the best practices for shading using Copics or other markers. I just use Copics because I just saw a lot of tutorials on YouTube about painting anime with Copics, and I thought it would translate well to Flash, and I wouldn't have to carry around inks and brushes with me. I could just keep some Copics in my bag, and then if I felt like doing some art, and I could, and yeah, worked out well, and I just got addicted to them. Really, I think they're great. So if you do want to get some Copics and do the sort of same techniques as me, then I'm going to put the color codes in the description as usual, so you can pick up the exact same pens as what I've got. And I'll put a link into Cult Pens, which I always do as well. That's where I get my pens from. I think it's probably one of the best value places where you can buy them from. You can check out eBay as well, but I think it's pretty similar prices. And I've changed my liners, which I also mentioned in my last video. If you didn't see that, I was using uni pens for lining, 0.8s, but I'm now using 0.8 Zig Millenniums, and they're actually a thicker line, even though they're both 0.8, which I prefer. And I'll put a link to those, the Cult Pens listing of those in the description as well. And they are really good technical drawing pens. Most technical drawing pens are fine for this sort of stuff. As long as, because they won't smudge, so you want to be using those, something like that. And yeah, this design I really liked because it's kind of, when people come into the shop and they say I want a memorial tattoo, 99% of these people always want a cross or just a name with a date. And I always think, like, come on, I mean, fair enough if that's what you want, but like, if you want something cool, you could get something like a nurse. Like, it's just done old school. It just looks awesome. Obviously, pretty much everyone still gets what they originally wanted, but it's good to give people ideas. And that's why I paint Flash and put it on the walls, to give people ideas and kind of open their minds a bit to different possibilities. So right, I'm doing the colour now, and yeah, that's all the red done. I'm just kind of going through. I zoomed out on this bit because what I do is I kind of take a look at the whole sheet rather than just each individual design and think, right, I've put red in this one could do with a bit of red in to balance the sheet out. That's personal preference. You can just paint each design as you go if you want, but I just like the sheets to be balanced out, so when you look at it as a whole, it's got the same colours running through the whole thing. And as I mentioned previously in other videos, I always use the same colours. I use 4 colours, and that's all I use for my traditional work. I don't put any blue in it because that annoys me. When these sort of tattoos were being done, originally they didn't have blue, and there's quite a famous story about Sailor Jerry. There's someone who worked just around the corner from him in he said that there was no way a tattoo would ever be done in purple ink. There was no way that you could ever get purple ink. So Sailor Jerry experimented a lot and came up with purple ink, and he did a purple dragon on this kid's arm. And he sent the kid into the shop and the kid said to the other tattooist, "Oh, can I get a purple dragon?" And he said, you can't get purple ink. There's never going to be a purple ink. And so the kid got his arm out and he said, well, Sailor Jerry did this on me last week. So the guy apparently, this is how the story goes, you know how these things go, apparently he had a heart attack, and when he was in hospital, Sailor Jerry sent him a bunch of purple flowers. So thought that was quite a good story. Right, so anyway, I'm getting a bit carried away now with storytelling when I should really be talking about Flash. So I'm just going through with the brown. The brown just gives the skin a bit of shade into it. You don't really need to do this. A lot of old school tattooers didn't do this. And anyway, that is the sheet done, and this is the final result. And I coffee stained it. Sod tea staining, don't do that. I've got a video tutorial on staining sheets of Flash. If you want to check that out, it's on my channel. It's pretty easy to find. It's in the traditional Flash playlist. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any suggestions, just stick them in a comment. I always reply to all my comments, and I try to do suggestions as and when I can. And yeah, like if this video helps you, and don't forget to subscribe for plenty more of these. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys soon.